My finger hovered over the delete button as I stared at 10 years of my life's work. Every customer relationship, every carefully nurtured account, every small business owner who trusted me with their dreams. Behind me, I could hear Derek's voice bragging to someone on the phone about his brilliant cost-cutting strategies. Completely unaware that I'd just discovered the fake vendor accounts he'd been funneling money through. One click would destroy everything. But after what they'd done to me, and what he was doing to them, maybe that's exactly what this company deserved. My name is Rebecca Foster, and at 49 years old, I thought I knew everything about loyalty. Turns out I was dead wrong about who deserved mine. For 10 years, I poured my soul into Morrison Family Restaurant Supply. While other people had weekend barbecues and dinner dates, I was on the phone with Marco from Little Italy Pizza, walking him through supply chain hiccups at 9 p.m. on a Sunday. When Sarah's breakfast nook was 3 days from closing because her equipment supplier bailed, I spent my vacation finding her a used commercial griddle and personally drove it across town. That's just who I was. The person restaurant owners called when everything went sideways. I knew every client's story, their kids' names, their seasonal rushes. Mrs. Chen at Golden Dragon would text me photos of her grandson's birthday parties. Miguel from Casa Rosa invited me to his daughter's quinceañera. These weren't just accounts to me. They were real people building their dreams one meal at a time. Frank Morrison, the company owner, used to joke that I bled marinara sauce and coffee grounds. He wasn't wrong. I'd built my entire identity around being indispensable to these small business owners who trusted me with their livelihoods. The weird part is, I actually loved it. Makes sense, right? When you're good at something that matters to people, it fills a hole you didn't even know was there. Frank had promised me something special after my 10-year anniversary. Not just the standard profit-sharing bonus. We were talking about a real chunk of change. $150,000. Life-changing money for someone who'd sacrificed a social life for spreadsheets and supplier relationships. That money represented validation, proof that my dedication meant something. Then everything changed on a Tuesday morning in March. Frank called me into his office with that serious expression he wore during budget meetings. "Rebecca, I need to talk to you about something important." My heart started racing. Was this it? The moment he'd finally recognize everything I'd built for his company. "I'm selling the business," he said. Relief flooded through me. Finally. My profit-sharing bonus would come through, and maybe the new owners would appreciate my expertise even more. "That's wonderful, Frank. You've earned your retirement." But his face didn't match the good news. "There's more. Derek will be taking over your position." Derek. Frank's son-in-law? The guy who showed up to company barbecues wearing designer polo shirts and talking about his MBA like it was a Purple Heart. Taking over? The words felt thick in my mouth. He needs someone experienced to show him the ropes first. You'll train him, then transition into a different role. Different role. Corporate speak for demotion. "Frank, I've been here for 10 years. I built these relationships from nothing. I know, and that's exactly why Derek needs your help. Family comes first, Rebecca. Fresh perspective and all that. Fresh perspective." As if my decade of experience was spoiled milk. The real gut punch came next. "Your cooperation during this transition will determine your profit-sharing bonus eligibility." There it was. Train my replacement or lose everything. Well, what choice did I have? 2 weeks later, Derek strutted into our office like he owned the place, which technically he soon would. Tall, confident, and completely clueless about the industry he was about to inherit. His first words to me? "I'm excited to modernize your outdated systems." Outdated systems. The ones that had generated millions in revenue and kept dozens of small businesses afloat. Derek had big plans. Automation instead of personal relationships. Profit margins over customer service. Efficiency over everything I'd spent a decade building. But here's what I didn't know yet. Derek's idea of efficiency involved a lot more than just cutting costs. He had plans that would make my training sessions look like kindergarten compared to what he was really preparing to do to our clients. Training Derek felt like teaching a toddler to perform brain surgery. Except the toddler kept interrupting to explain how his finger painting techniques were revolutionary. "Walk me through your client management system," he said on his first official day, settling into the chair across from my desk like he was doing me a favor. I pulled up Maria Santos's account from Abuela's kitchen. Maria's been with us for 6 years. She orders heavy on weekends because she does catering for quinceañeras and wedding receptions. But July through September, her orders drop 40% because of seasonal variance, Derek cut in. Basic business cycle stuff. What's your automated tracking system for this pattern? Automated tracking system. Right. I track it here. I tapped my temple. Maria calls me every month to discuss her upcoming events. She trusts me to anticipate her needs. Derek's expression suggested I'd just admitted to using an abacus. That's incredibly inefficient. You're essentially functioning as a human spreadsheet. Human spreadsheet. 10 years of relationship building reduced to outdated software. But here's what really got under my skin. Derek wasn't just dismissing my methods. He was actively sabotaging them while I watched. Our first joint client meeting was with Tom Bradley from Bradley's Steakhouse. Tom had been my client for 8 years. His restaurant was struggling after the pandemic, and we'd worked out a payment plan that kept his doors open when 3 other suppliers had dropped him. Tom, I'd like you to meet Derek Hoffman, I said, as we sat down in his cramped office behind the restaurant. He'll be taking over account management soon. Tom shook Derek's hand with that wariness restaurant owners develop when meeting new suppliers. Rebecca's been a lifesaver for us. Don't know where we'd be without her flexibility during the rough patches. Derek smiled. Well, Tom, that's exactly why I'm here. To bring some structure to these arrangements. Structure. My stomach dropped. The payment plan you've been on needs to change, Derek continued. Net 30 terms, no exceptions. Cash flow management is crucial for both businesses. Tom's face went pale. But Rebecca and I worked out a system That system isn't sustainable, Derek interrupted. I'm sure you understand. I watched 8 years of trust crumble in real time. Tom looked at me like I'd betrayed him personally. What could I say? That Derek was destroying everything I'd built. That I disagreed with every word coming out of his mouth. My job and my bonus depended on making this transition look seamless. After the meeting, Derek was practically glowing. See how easy that was? Clear boundaries, professional expectations. You've been enabling these clients instead of helping them grow. Enabling. Apparently keeping small businesses afloat during a global pandemic was enabling them. The pattern repeated itself, meeting after meeting. Derek would steamroll over carefully negotiated arrangements while I sat there smiling like a trained seal. Mrs. Chen from Golden Dragon got lectured about bulk ordering efficiency when she'd specifically chosen smaller, more frequent orders to manage her limited storage space. Miguel from Casa Rosa was told his seasonal menu consultations were outside the scope of standard service. Each meeting felt like watching Derek take a sledgehammer to a house of cards I'd spent years carefully stacking. Then came the vendor account requests. I need you to help me set up some new supplier relationships, Derek said one afternoon, sliding a folder across my desk. Fresh blood in the system. The paperwork looked standard enough. 3 new vendors with names I didn't recognize. Hoffman Logistics, DH Supply Solutions, Derek Holdings, LLC. That last one should have been a red flag the size of Texas. But I was so focused on surviving each day that I missed the obvious. Derek Holdings, Derek Hoffman. Even now, I can't believe I didn't connect those dots immediately. These companies came highly recommended, Derek explained. Better prices, more reliable delivery schedules. I want to start transitioning some of our larger accounts to them. I helped him set up the accounts, entered their information into our system, created purchase orders for their first deliveries. I basically handed Derek the keys to his own personal ATM machine. Well, what did I know about vendor fraud? I'd spent 10 years focused on customer service, not corporate theft. The strangest part was watching the ordering patterns. These new vendors were getting massive contracts for basic supplies, paper products, cleaning supplies, generic ingredients that any restaurant could use. But the prices seemed creative. $50 for a case of paper towels that usually cost $20. $35 for industrial garbage bags, priced everywhere else at $15. Small markups that would get lost in larger restaurant budgets, but add up to serious money across dozens of accounts. Derek, these prices seem high, I mentioned one day while processing orders. He waved me off. You're thinking old school wholesale. These suppliers offer premium service packages, white glove delivery, extended warranties, customer satisfaction guarantees. Premium service packages for garbage bags. Sure. But the real kicker was watching Derek's mood improve with every new vendor order. Guy went from corporate drone to practically skipping around the office, started wearing more expensive suits, bought a new BMW that he loved showing off in the parking lot. Meanwhile, our longtime clients were getting squeezed harder every month. Sarah from Sarah's Breakfast Nook called me directly, which clients rarely did. Rebecca, what's happening with our orders? Everything's more expensive, but the quality is going downhill. I wanted to tell her the truth, that Derek was funneling money through fake companies while jacking up her costs to cover the difference. Instead, I gave her corporate speak about market fluctuations and supply chain adjustments. Made me sick. By month 3 of Derek's training period, I realized the truth. He wasn't learning my job. He was systematically dismantling everything I'd built while running his own side hustle, and I was helping him do it. The final insult came on a Friday afternoon in June. Frank Morrison walked into the office with that same serious expression from March. Derek was right behind him, practically bouncing with excitement. Rebecca, we need to discuss your transition timeline, Frank began. Transition timeline. After 4 months of watching Derek destroy client relationships and apparently embezzle money, they were finally ready to make it official. Your last day will be next Friday, Frank continued. Derek feels ready to handle the accounts independently. Derek stepped forward with fake sympathy plastered across his face. Rebecca, you've been incredibly helpful. I know this transition isn't easy, but sometimes change is necessary for growth. Sometimes change is necessary for growth. The guy was stealing from small business owners and lecturing me about professional development. That's when I knew my profit sharing bonus was never coming. 10 years of loyalty, and they were tossing me aside like yesterday's produce. But Derek had made one crucial mistake. In his rush to get rid of me, he'd forgotten that I still had administrative access to every system in the building, including some very interesting vendor accounts that deserved a closer look. My last week at Morrison Family Restaurant Supply felt like attending my own funeral, except instead of flowers and condolences, I got Derek's smug reminders about proper file organization for my replacement, which, let's be honest, was pretty rich coming from a guy who couldn't organize his way out of a paper bag. But here's the thing about being forced out. Suddenly you notice details that were invisible before, like how Derek always stepped out to take certain phone calls, how he'd close his laptop whenever I walked past his desk, how he'd started parking his shiny new BMW in the back corner of the lot, away from everyone else. Classic guilty behavior, really. My final evening, I stayed late to transfer client files and tie up loose ends. Frank had already gone home. Derek was long gone, probably celebrating at some overpriced steakhouse. The office felt eerily quiet without the usual buzz of phone calls and printer noise. That's when I decided to take one last look at those vendor accounts I'd helped him set up. What I found made my blood run cold. Hoffman Logistics wasn't just overcharging clients. Derek had created fake delivery confirmations for orders that never existed. DH Supply Solutions was billing restaurants for premium service packages that were literally just normal deliveries with fancy names. And Derek Holdings? That one was the masterpiece. He'd been ordering supplies through his own fake company, then reselling the exact same products back to our clients at triple the markup. The guy had turned Morrison Family Restaurant Supply into his personal money laundering operation. But wait, it gets worse. Remember Maria from Abuela's Kitchen? The one Derek lectured me about enabling? She'd been paying inflated prices for 3 months while Derek pocketed the difference. Tom Bradley from the steakhouse? His structured payment plan was funding Derek's BMW payments. Every single client I cared about was getting scammed by the golden boy who'd replaced me. The numbers were staggering. Derek had stolen over $40,000 in just 4 months. At this rate, he'd be driving a Ferrari by Christmas, while Sarah's Breakfast Nook struggled to pay for overpriced garbage bags. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through page after page of fraudulent transactions. Here I'd been worried about losing my job when Derek was actively stealing from the people I'd spent 10 years protecting. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway. Derek's voice drifted through the thin office walls, loud and obnoxious as always. Yeah, Mom, the transition went perfectly. Rebecca was completely clueless about the vendor restructuring. Dad's going to be so proud of how much I've streamlined operations. Streamlined operations. Right. The footsteps were getting closer. I quickly minimized the vendor screens and pulled up a generic client file, trying to look busy with legitimate work. Derek poked his head into my office. "Still here, Rebecca? Don't work too hard on your last night." The condescension in his voice made me want to throw my stapler at his perfectly groomed head. Instead, I smiled sweetly. "Just making sure everything's organized for Monday." "Great, well, don't stay too late. Security locks up at midnight." After he left, I sat there staring at my computer screen. $40,000 stolen from small business owners who trusted us. People like Maria, who sent me pictures of her grandson's birthday parties. People like Tom, who was barely keeping his restaurant afloat after the pandemic. This wasn't just about Derek screwing me over anymore. This was about him systematically stealing from hardworking people who couldn't afford it. I looked at my screen. Still had administrative access for another 6 hours. The customer database sat right there, containing every relationship I'd built, every trust I'd earned, every small business owner who deserved better than this. My finger moved toward the delete button as Derek's voice echoed from down the hall, still bragging about his brilliant cost-cutting strategies. One click would destroy everything, but maybe some things deserve to be destroyed. I clicked delete, not just once. I methodically deleted every single customer file, every vendor contact, every carefully maintained relationship record that Derek thought he was inheriting. 10 years of my life's work. Gone in 30 seconds. But here's what I did before I deleted everything. I downloaded every piece of evidence about Derek's fake vendor scheme. Every fraudulent invoice, every inflated price sheet, every transaction that proved he'd been stealing from small business owners who trusted us. Then I sent it all to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, along with copies to the State Attorney General's office. And just for good measure, I forwarded everything to Frank Morrison's personal email with a subject line that read, "Your son-in-law is a thief." The next Monday was beautiful. I was home in my pajamas, drinking coffee and scrolling through job listings when my phone started buzzing. Derek was calling, then Frank, then Derek again. I let them go to voicemail. Derek's first message was pure panic. "Rebecca, something's wrong with the system. All the customer files are corrupted or missing. I need you to fix this immediately." Frank's message was slightly more diplomatic but equally desperate. "Rebecca, we have a serious technical issue. Please call me back as soon as possible." By the third voicemail, Derek wasn't even pretending to be professional anymore. "You deleted everything. How am I supposed to run these accounts without any client information?" Here's the beautiful irony. Derek had spent 4 months telling everyone how outdated my relationship-based approach was. Turns out those inefficient personal connections were pretty important when they're the only thing standing between you and complete business collapse. Within 2 weeks, Morrison Family Restaurant Supply was finished. Not because I deleted their database, but because Derek's embezzlement scheme made national news. Turns out the FBI takes financial fraud seriously, especially when it targets small businesses. Derek got arrested at his country club. Frank lost his retirement savings paying legal fees. The company went bankrupt after clients started demanding refunds for Derek's inflated charges. 6 months later, I was running my own restaurant supply consulting business. Funny how all those outdated relationships I'd built suddenly became valuable again. Maria from Abuela's Kitchen was my first client. Then Tom Bradley. Then Sarah from the breakfast place. They didn't want automated systems or profit margin optimization. They wanted someone who gave a damn about their success. Turns out loyalty is a two-way street. I just needed to learn who actually deserved mine. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's building something better from the ashes of what they tried to destroy.